So, what's my today's topic? What came to your mind when you read today's topic? We can. This is a very interactive session, so I would really appreciate one or two people just tell me what came to your mind when we spoke about, say, emotional health or emotional regulation. What comes to your mind?
Being emotionally strong, like supervising our inner feelings.
Okay, very nice.
I think the second word is important, that is regulation, or rather monitoring.
Yes,
You know,
very true.
Because emotions, any event, you either react or respond. Response, and how do you balance that response wisely?
Very true.
It's your sentimental values.
Sentimental values. Okay, nice.
I connected regulation with relation.
Oh yes, sir, very much. So my first question today to all of you all is, what is emotional health? What is it? And before I start, how do you feel today? Anybody, please express. How do you feel today? We've just had a fantastic celebration.
Great. I feel great.
So that's one word. Vocabulary. Happy.
Happy. Super.
Ecstatic.
Superb.
Top of the world.
Ecstatic. Wow. Top of the world. Who said that? Oh, nice. People sitting right at that corner, he's on his mobile 24/7. So, what is this? How are you feeling today?
Jackass.
Say kya?
He is on Mumbai safety duty, so that's why he has to be on mobile. So we all are safe here in Mumbai.
We are feeling jackass.
Jackass. Nice, nice.
That's nice.
So now, what do you mean by emotional health? Give me one, two words, whatever comes to your mind. What is emotional health? Have you heard about it? Yes, we all have.
Depression.
No.
Depression. Okay.
Also,
Well-being.
Well-being. Who said that? Awesome.
I think
Calmness.
Calmness. Lovely.
Patience.
Patience. Very nice.
Balance.
Balance. Wow. Anji.
I feel it's about how you manage your emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Are you stuck with emotions, or are you able to manage and move on?
Very nice. No, sir, fantastic audience. Thank you very much.
Answer आ गया.
Can you relate to these words? Well-being, how we think and feel, living a life of wholeness, ability to cope with life events. The last one is very important. It's actually an ability to come back after a setback. Life can never be problem-free. But the idea is how you come back after a setback. So now my second question is, if you know what is emotional health, then what is a mental health? Okay? Mental health. Are they the same? Are they different? What is the difference?
They are related.
They're related. Who said that? Very good. So what is mental health? Everybody's one side.
Mentally strong.
Okay.
old word for emotion. No, I think you have to be mentally balanced.
Like health, I'm talking
I
about.
think that mental means what we
It's-
hear, see from outside, and emotional is which comes from within us.
So
by
let's say
listening.
mental, emotional is feelings. Mental is the mind, the brain,
Yes.
thoughts,
That
behavior.
is what I.
When you appear to somebody else and you show what you are by talk and everything, that shows the mental and emotional health.
Very nice.
Mental is well-being.
Very nice.
Basically, it's a thought process which converts the emotions, how we feel. It's a thought which drives.
Can I go a little, we can add this. In the mind there are chemicals. There is serotonin, dopamine,
Neurotransmitters.
neurotransmitters. How we respond.
Yes.
If you're cutting a cake, there is a certain chemistry that comes across in the brain, which in the end reflects into emotions.
True.
And there is vice versa. as well.
Very true, very true. So, but if you look at mental health, we'll look at a spectrum from the optimal to the mental illnesses, debilitating mental illnesses like, schizophrenia, bipolar. Now, where does emotional health fit in is at the positive end of that spectrum. So, when you look at a mental health spectrum, emotional health actually is a subset of mental health. And we are looking at the spectrum where you are into wellness. Correct? So, am I clear with this? Okay, so mental health, emotional health, farak hai. So, we are a sum of what? Physical health, mental health, and emotional health. Correct? So, you know what physical health is: nutrition, exercise, screening, medical tests, and all. Mental health is self-efficacy, stress management, safety, and security. Whereas, what my today's topic is right here: emotional health, positive relationships, social interactions, and spiritual health. Today it's in. Now, if I take you back, this is the modern day definition, but if you go back to say Advait Vedanta, Shaivism, Buddhism, Tantra, they had a very interesting philosophy. They spoke about Sharira Traya. The body is made up of 3 things. Okay? So now I'll take you there. So it is called the 3 bodies doctrine. Sharira Traya. It is based on the ancient philosophies. Now what is this 3 body doctrine? Any idea anybody has? Those are the gunas.
Mind, body, and soul.
That is your 3 body? Okay, very nice. Good attempt. Now this, if you look at the ancient this thing, I was thrown away because the science is so advanced that it gave me, when I'm researching still on this, it gave me an insight on how to create a balance between all the 3 bodies. Because all the 3 bodies, according to our ancient scriptures, are vibrating at different frequencies. So let me tell you what the 3 bodies are. The first body they call is the Sthula Sharira. Sthula means the gross body, the physical body which you can see. The second body which is inside the Sthula Sharira is called the subtle body. Correct? Sukshma Sharira. And inside that is called the Karan Sharira, or the causal body, where your soul resides. So if you look at this, physical body, subtle body, causal body. Now if you look at all these 3 things, Sthula body is just your physical body which you and me are seeing. Therefore we take so much care of it, physical health. Whereas the subtle body is made up of Man, Buddhi, Ahankar. And inside that is our beautiful soul, the Atman. If you look at it more pictorially, it would look like this. So according to yogic philosophers, a person has not only the physical body, but but 2 more bodies which happen within the outer physical body. It's called the concept of Sharira Traya, or 3 bodies. So this is my introduction to what we are made of. Without understanding this, you will not be able to relate to what I'm going to say further. Speaking of that, how many of you all over here have siblings? सबके होंगे. और जब हम छोटे थे तो we were spot on at spotting favoritism. उसको ज़्यादा मिला, मम्मी उससे ज़्यादा प्यार करती. Did we? Today also in life we spot favoritism. It's happening everywhere. But as kids, मम्मी ने उसको ज़्यादा dessert दे दिया. होता है, हम लोग बच्चे देखते थे और सोचते थे why? Same thing we see, especially for people like me who are researching and doing behavioral sciences and mental health. we see that difference, that favoritism in physical health and mental health. There is more stress given to this body than to the mind. I remember once, just recently, we were invited to a friend's house and he had a grandson and it was his 9 o'clock ho gaya, so I saw that little kid going into the room. He took a stool, he stood up, opened the closet, removed his toothpaste and started brushing. Suddenly he slipped from the stool, scratched himself, cried a little bit. And what that kid did was he got up again opened the closet, removed the band-aid, put it on that scratch and brushed his teeth. It put me thinking, we are so careful with our physical health. We are so careful with our dental health. A 5-year-old kid who can't even tie his own shoelaces knew what is physical health, knew what is dental health. But do we train our children on emotional health, emotional hygiene? Do we really train them? No, there is a vast difference between the way we treat psychological health and physical health. Come on, we give more priority to dental hygiene than to our mind. Is it really fair? So, we value the doctors more than the psychologist or psychiatrist. Physical injuries become priorities to our emotional health. And we sustain, we sustain more psychological injuries than we do physical injuries in our lifetime. Injuries like loneliness, injuries like rejection, injuries like failure. And since we are not equipped to deal with the mind, we don't know how to treat them. So, our duty is, this physical health is much more larger than the mental health. It is our duty to see to it that they become equals. We should and we must treat that mind, whatever the games the mind plays, equally as we treat our physical health. Reminding me, I have a daughter. And this is in the early 2000s when there was, when the computer languages were basic and COBOL and there were no smartphones, there was no internet, mobile phones and all. That's her. I raised her and my whole life, all mother's life revolves around our children. I raised her and when she decided she wants to go to the US for her further studies, I was happy, but somewhere deep down I said, oh my God, that's the most brutal decision I'm taking in my life. Because वो बच्चा मेरे लिए मेरा विश्व था. Anyway, she went. And since there was no phone calls or internet that time, we would talk to each other 5 minutes in a week because international calls were extremely expensive. मेरा birthday आया, so we decided कि mom, next week we'll stop for 10 minutes. I said, okay, fine. On my birthday, I was waiting for the phone to ring. Waiting. सुबह हो गई, afternoon हो गई. मैंने सोचा शायद maybe day and night US का है तो time नहीं मिला होगा. Evening आई, no phone call, I'm waiting. Maybe I thought कि she's forgotten me. She's found a whole new set of friends. That night was really, I was very sad. I went off to sleep. I got up with a heavy heart. And then suddenly I looked at the phone. My maid, out of cleanliness, she had not put the receiver properly. And that day. So I went and immediately put the receiver back. 5 minutes में the phone rang. And Neha called. And boy, she was mad. She says, Mom, what is this? I said, listen to me, I tried to explain. She was not willing to listen. Then she said a very interesting thing. She He said, if I couldn't call, why didn't you call me back? You also could have called me in case you didn't receive my call. I had no answer. Valid question. I had no answer. Why hadn't I called her up? That time I didn't know the answer. Today I know. Loneliness. We may be surrounded by people, but we may feel totally disconnected. Loneliness is what? If you define loneliness, what is it? The ability to connect, the ability for oneself to be appreciated, feel people are caring for me. But when you're lonely, what happens is it's a very interesting thing. It creates a psychological wound, we call it. A wound which does not bleed, a wound which doesn't turn septic, but yes, it's a very, very deep wound. What does the wound do? It will distort your perceptions. It will scramble your thinking. It will make you feel as though it will make you believe that people around you care much less. They are caring for you, but what will it make you feel? Oh, they don't care for me. And it will make you feel afraid to approach somebody because as it is, मैं इतनी दुखी हूँ, मैं कैसे पूछूं और दुख बढ़ाने के लिए? But it's wrong. A very interesting US study predicted that your chances of early death are raised by 14% if you're suffering from loneliness. Correct? In earlier days, maybe in the tribes, what they used to do if they had to punish somebody, they used to ostracize that person. गांव में से बाहर निकाल देते थे. For them, being alone was being as good as being given a death sentence. So, loneliness, again, the FDA compares it to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. As bad as that, those centers in your brain light up. So, obesity, loneliness, and cigarette smoking. Actually, I shouldn't even compare them. Those two are better, but loneliness is worse. So, if you look at loneliness, it can create blood pressure, it can increase your cholesterol, and the worst thing it can do is it will suppress your immunity. They did a study where college freshers, after 5 days, they were inoculated the flu vaccine. And because the freshers are so lonely, that the immunity was so low that they couldn't tolerate that flu vaccine. So, what does loneliness do? If you're falling sick way too often, think. It's not the physical body, it's something going on in that mind of yours. That's a warning. Equally deep psychological wound is failure. So, we need to pay attention to our emotional pain. We should not just let it pass. ऐसे हो गया जैसे कि किसी ने कहा अरे यार मैं डिप्रेशन में हूँ, कोई बात नहीं, झटक दे, you will become all right. If I say that to somebody whose leg is broken, कोई बात नहीं, पैर को झटक दे, चलने लग. Can that happen? No. So, please pay attention to the emotional pains we suffer in life. I'm talking about something called as failure. We all witness failures, chote bade in our lives, and we know how to deal with them. That's what we do. I visited a daycare center. And उस daycare center में मैंने बड़ी interesting देखे 3 toddler बैठे हुए थे. और daycare center वाली ने एक ऐसा खिलौना उनको ला के दिया. तीनों बच्चों को this toy was given. Now what was this toy? It had purple, orange, different colored this thing, and only when you press the red one, a little cute doggy popped up. Right? So what did the first little girl do? I was watching her and she took the box इधर उधर देखा, tried to open with the purple button. नहीं हुआ, she just left it with the lip peering and just sadly she was looking at it. The little boy sitting next to her looked at her what she was doing, looked at the toy and started yelling, crying. बिना कुछ किए रोने लगे. तीसरी जो एक छोटी सी बड़ी स्वीट सी लड़की थी, what she did, she picked up the toy, pressed one button, second one. By the time 2-3 times she tried, the third time the red button moved and the little doggy came. And she squealed in laughter. She was so happy. Now, same toy, 3 different reactions. What happened to the earlier 2? The mind tricked those little ones in believing that they cannot do it. So failure is a very interesting thing. Actually, there's a default setting in our brain. And what's that default setting? The moment a belief, it's a belief actually and a feeling. The moment you suffer any setback, any challenge, you will do. And mind you, if the mind convinces you that you cannot do it, you are in for trouble. Because that convincing part is, that's why we have so many people who just don't try at all. Convincing से एक छोटा सा किस्सा था. A couple of years ago, since my son also lives in the US, he was studying in college. And he had a set of friends who were twins. If I remember the names, one was Jim and one was, Joe and Sam. And बड़े कॉमेडी बच्चे थे दोनों, इतने हंसमुख खेलते रहते थे. So really, I used to get along very well with them. So one day they said, "Auntie, can't we go for movies?" I said, "Okay, fine." I was free. So my son drove and all 4 of us went. After the movie, in one of those dark lanes, unfortunately, a burglary had happened. So there was a lot of police patrolling happening. And our cast, we didn't know, so we drove through that and हमको रोका गया. So one San Francisco police department guy came, police came. Because it was dark, he shone the torch on my son's face. Then he went around. आगे Sam was sitting. He looked at him, then he shone the torch on my face, and then he went. And when Joe was sitting, he shone the torch. The moment he saw Joe, he's saying, "I've seen you somewhere." Right? Now Joe was a hilarious guy, but वो भी थोड़ा डरा होता है. He said, "Sir, maybe in the front seat." But that officer, that young officer, I still remember, he was so convinced. He thought that this kid is making fun of me. He thought he was on drugs. So get off. He checked him, took him to the other patrol car and started verifying everything. कुछ निकला नहीं. With a heavy heart he came back, sat in the car. Again he showed him, "Sir, you must have seen him." But what stayed with me was that guy was so convinced that I have seen you somewhere and you are the culprit that he wouldn't believe it. Twins है और मैंने इसको पहले देखा. So my idea of telling you this little anecdote of my life was, once you are convinced that you cannot do it, sorry, nobody can help you. Idea is, are you aware how the mind reacts to failures? If the mind convinces you that you are incapable of doing things, it will make you feel helpless, you will stop trying, and it will further convince you not to try at all. And it will make you feel very strong things, demoralized and defeated. Who wants to be in that situation? Nobody wants to. Sometimes a single failure will convince you that you cannot succeed, and you believe in it. Once we become convinced, it is very, very difficult to change the mind. So what do? You fight those feelings. You fight that helplessness. You tell a story to yourself. No, I can't. You have to gain control of the situation. You have to break this kind of it's actually a negative loop which plays in your mind. We all are aware of it. We all can empathize with it. We all have gone through it. So that's failure for you. So we spoke about loneliness. We spoke about failures. So, what does this mean? What is emotional bleeding?
Grieving.
Grieving, who said that?
Again and again.
We do exactly that in all our setbacks. The mind is bleeding, only thing हमको खून दिखता नहीं है. But there's a lot of chemical locha going on in that brain. There's a lot of cortisol released in the body. That's why you get the blood pressures. That's why you get the diabetes. You get all these physical. They say diabetes is a lifestyle disorder. Reason is this: you don't know how to deal with your mind. Next one. There was this young girl. She was 20 years into marriage, but she had a very, very painful divorce. Of late, she had started dating somebody. આજકાલ online platforms, all the youngsters,
Older guys knows better.
I like the honesty.
Recorded, huh?
I like that honesty. So she started talking to a very young, interesting man, and very खुश थी. And she says, "Okay, let's meet up." She goes and buys a nice, lovely dress for herself and books herself at a upmarket restaurant, upscale restaurant in the city. The day comes, जाती है, बड़ी खुश. 10 minutes into the conversation, the young man gets up and says, "I don't think so it will work." And he just walks off. Rejection is very, very painful. Very painful. She actually froze. Then she picked up a phone and called on her friend. तो सहेली को बोला, सहेली कहती है, "What do you think you are? Have you ever seen your face in the mirror? Have you seen those big hips you have? Do you know you can't even carry a conversation for 10 minutes? What do you think you are?" ऐसे कोई friend बोले तो कैसे लगेगा? How would you feel? How would you feel? And if I tell you, it was not a friend who was saying this. It was a mind which was telling you. What will the mind do? It will start thinking about your faults. Moment you suffer rejection, हम loop में चले जाएंगे. हमारी कमियां हमको दिखने लगेगी. Correct? And all the shortcomings, what we wish we were, what we wish we weren't, we call ourselves names. Yes, we do. Start observing. Because our self-esteem over there is hurting. I hope all of us know what self-esteem is. How much I respect myself before I respect others. And if you are low on self-esteem, failures, rejections, loneliness is going to trouble you all the more. So, if you are on low self-esteem, you are in for trouble. So, when self-esteem is lower, you are vulnerable to what? Stress, anxiety, and that's where what's going to happen is going to be more anger. So, when you are rejected, what is the first thing one should do? Check your self-esteem. ये नहीं तो और सही. Correct? You have to come back out of that loop. It's a very, very negative loop. So you have to keep reviewing your or actually protecting your self-esteem. कभी हमने ऐसा किया है कि अभी फिट है, अभी मेरे को कोई फिजिकल इंजीनियर लिया चाकू और do we ever do that? हम कभी करते हैं अच्छा है वो इसको deep. Do we do that? No, but we do that to our mind. We do that. Negative thoughts चल रहे हैं, wound हो गई है, पर हम क्या करेंगे? We are going to that loop. We are going deeper and deeper, and we are hurting ourselves more. Think it in that way. Do I do that to my physical health? No. Then why am I doing it to my mind? Because I am not taught to take care of my emotional hygiene. I am not taught how to take care of my psychological health. मुझे ये बचपन से ट्रेनिंग दी ही नहीं गई. I'm not blaming anybody. It is how our education system works, how our family atmosphere works. We as Indians have seen lead the most protected life on this planet. We don't even let that bachcha leave your hand and cross the road. Not that he's that small, he's that big. Are nahi. Look, the ma in you is like, OMG. We all, I even have done it. I'm not saying I've not done it. We are overprotected. Actually, when the gentleman was talking about, I think you were talking about a tough father you had and you used to get a tough lead. I was happy. I said that's tapo yoga, which they do nowadays. They keep tapping on the body. That's very good. It's very good. So the stuff, please. I'm not justifying beating or anything.
That's why the CEO of the company.
So I just connected that to the tap yoga, and we were made to. उठक बैठक ये सब बहुत अच्छा था, पर हम बहुत protected है. You, especially when our children, after being protected for 16, 17 years and suddenly they step out in the world, they have a tough time handling themselves.
Yes.
And the science behind it, sir, is when you look at the evolution of the brain, the oldest part of the brain is the brain stem. And the newly formed part in the front is the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the seat for decision making. And let me tell you, you all are parents here, you all are brothers and sisters. The prefrontal cortex grows right up to the age of 28, 30. It's still growing. So then what does that mean? Taking decisions is not a youngster's forte. Right up to the age of 28, 30. So the guidance part is very important. What we do, अरे तू 18 साल का हो गया, अभी तो तू बड़ा हो गया, तेरा decision ले, नहीं होता है. You have to be a part of the growth process. Correct? So that's a little bit of science, neuroscience. I'm coming to my last part of a psychological injury. Does anybody know what this word means? Not you, wait. What about this young boy here?
Actually, I
You don't know. Sir, आपको आप बड़े sweetly smile कर रहे हैं.
Going over the same thing continuously.
Correct? Perfect.
procrastination.
No, it's not procrastination.
It's like something has happened 5 years back, you bring up now. Again, next year you bring up again the same thing. So you keep going in a loop.
The derivative of the word is it's inspired by the cow.
Correct. If you see गाय को ruminate,
Right.
the root word is ruminate. So if you see, हम सबके घर गाँव में होंगे, हम जाते भी होंगे, तो गाय क्या करेगी? चारा खा लेगी, फिर एक जगह बड़े मस्ती से बैठेगी, and she will, the food which is grass which has gone in her intestines will be regurgitated, will come back to her mouth, and she will chew it again and again, because grass has, if you see the plant cell, the cell wall is very tough to break, so you have to keep chewing it. Therefore, when we eat a plant-based diet, we need to chew our food very well. Correct? So the word came from there, which you are right, sir, is rumination. Now, rumination is what? प्रोफेसर ने इस कॉलेज में डांटा, घर आके वही चक्कर चल रहा, माँ बाप ने डांटा, कोलीग ने कुछ बोल दिया, बॉस ने कुछ बोल दिया, and that loop is going on in the mind. We don't get over it. It goes on and on and on and on. क्या बात है सर, क्या टाइप कर रहे हैं?
नहीं, he is typing.
Please.
Okay, okay.
He is the fastest finger, क्या बोलते हैं?
Fastest fingers first.
Fastest.
He
Notes.
entire thing he will type and forward
I
it to all
can
of
share
us.
the video. I'll do that. So what is ruminating? It's replaying the scene in your head for days. I'm not talking about hours. What he rightly said was, we don't do it tomorrow, by the way, be happy. It's not the main. 10 साल पहले आपने मुझे ये बोला था. My husband actually does that. तुझे इतना याद, बाकी तो कुछ रहता नहीं है, कैसे याद? So we keep ruminating. So what is ruminating? I want somebody to read this for me. Who wants to volunteer? Sir, बोलिए.
Ruminating about upsetting events eventually can become a habit, and that too a costly one. Because by spending so much time focused on upsetting negative thoughts, you are actually putting yourself at a risk for developing clinical depression, alcoholism, eating disorders, and even cardiovascular diseases. The urge to ruminate can feel very strong, and it's very difficult habit to stop.
Honestly, कितने लोग honest हैं? How many of us actually ruminate? Wow, that's nice. All of us. All are you smiling? You know why I asked this question? Because I like to see the हाथ ऊपर जा रहा पर चेहरे पर क्या expression. And she is like happily, yes, I do it. But ma'am, it's not worth it. जो बीत गई सो बात गई.
Is it always a negative emotion?
It could be positive, but I'll tell you, it's like this. The mind is very interesting. You asked a very valid question. हम लोग, if you look at life, 10 चीज किसी ने अच्छी की और एक गलत की, तो हमको 10 जरा भी याद नहीं आएगी, हम वो एक को पकड़ लेंगे. That's how the mind is. So mind is a good slave, but not a good master. You have to be very careful on what you are ruminating. It will never ruminate on happy thoughts. Take a recall. कितने बार याद आता है, आंखें बंद की, मेडिटेशन में बोला मैंने बैठा, क्या याद आए? अच्छी चीजें नहीं आती.
There could also be a particular cricketer. He is still enjoying that first 100, and there are 50 innings over.
He's being trained.
Oh,
It will never happen normally. You have to be trained. You see the positive way these cricketers and all are playing. They have more than the physical counselors. They have the mind counselors. You see Virat's. If anybody is a fan of Virat, I'm a huge fan of that boy. Is the way he deals with situations. He says, "I am my own competitor." He does not get carried away by anybody else. He has trained himself. There are a few psychologists who work with him. So any achiever today in today's world has a mind trainer more than the physical trainer. एक physical trainer होगा पर mind trainers होंगे, and more so in the spiritual way. Right? So thank you, Lameet sir, for reading this. So this is the most difficult habit to break. How am I going to break it? Any suggestions? How am I going to break it?
Think positive.
Think positive. Okay.
Very easy to say.
Easy to, sir, bang on. But sir, we have to break it. So how today my presence is.
What is the exact solution?
What is the, how do you do it?
Thinking about good things happened and forget about the bad thing which has happened or mistake which has happened.
No, is it that easy?
It's not that easy.
Ma'am, can we divide it? I think this is part of the habit loop. There is a cue, routine, and reward principle that follows. So once if you break one of those factors, it could be the cue, the initial thought, and replace it with that, maybe a different loop will be formed.
It's a neural network
Yeah.
that forms in the brain.
Even
Yes.
He was my professor in the college.
क्या बात है?
The easiest way.
It's a small temporary situational sadness, not a lifelong sadness.
I'm not talking about sadness, Odri.
Not
Talking
sadness, we can
about
say no.
any thought.
We can say no, we keep
Let
on.
us understand how we should do it. Let us,
Yes.
because you tell us
Correct.
instead of getting the.
There are techniques. There are a lot of techniques here. Today's world and YouTube, Google to hey master, but the techniques are simple. To break that habit and to form a neural network, there is in our ancient texts, there, especially in the yogic literature, I came across a very interesting technique called pratipaksh bhavna. I'll say the word again. Pratipaksh bhavna. I got attracted to that word and I started digging deeper. What is pratipaksh? माने आज मैं simply इसको simplify कर देती हूँ कि जब I am thinking of a worrying thought. Now this you have to train your mind. Mind you, it can't happen with one. Whenever a negative thought comes, you have to, suppose I'm worried. So pratipaksh is exactly the opposite of that. I think of something very peaceful. Right? So अगर मुझे worry है तो मैं किसका चेहरा लाऊंगी सामने? बुद्ध है, any great teacher, or even a calm, serene scene, a nature scene. You can do that. You have to. The moment that thought comes, mind you, this will happen one moment. Next moment, that thought will come again. That loop will come again because it's formed a very solid neural network. The idea is to build a parallel new network by coming up with positive thoughts, positive anchoring, positive visualizations, whatever you like. उस thought को उस moment में आपको break करना है, period. Even for 2 seconds you broken, you will feel much more light. So you have to break that chain. Am I okay? Is my talk
Yes.
well appreciated? Thank you. So now I will come to things we can do for ourselves. So if I'm looking at loneliness, sir, आप पढ़िए loneliness में हम क्या कर सकते हैं?
Acknowledging how you are feeling, practicing gratitude, routinely contacting family and friends, getting outdoors, join support groups, and find hobbies you enjoy.
So suppose आपको अगर loneliness है तो आप इसमें से क्या करेंगे? What is your favorite?
Routinely contacting family and friends.
Nice. The young lady here. What about failure?
Practice self-compassion, give yourself permission to feel, reflection on the experience and adopt a growth mindset, revisit your goals and create a plan for the future.
क्या click हुआ?
Self-compassion because I always accept whatever comes.
Yeah. Compassion is the key.
Gracefully and move on, it's okay.
Very true. Very nice.
That I do.
Very nice. Sir?
Recognize that rejection is a part of life. Some things aren't meant to you. Accept what happened, worst is to deny it. Treat yourself with compassion and grow from experience.
You have to grow from your experiences. Rejections आते हैं, हमको तो grow करना है. Puja, rumination. What do you do? These are some methods I've suggested you can learn.
Divert your attention. Distract yourself when thoughts spiral. Avoid your triggers. Set a worry timer. Immerse yourself in the moment.
This is the most interesting. You put a timer. कितने देर मुझे worry करना है?
Maintain a healthy diet and regular exercise
do it.
regime.
It's a very interesting thing. The moment you put that timer, you become aware you are worrying. Worry goes. लगाओ अच्छा 30 seconds, 40 seconds. ना वापस after worry, put the timer on. Nowadays the watches and the phones are equipped. Try it.
I'll take the second option. Avoid your triggers.
Yeah. But life is not. Triggers will happen. Yeah. Learn to deal with it. So, I conclude my session by saying very interesting observation. Physical hygiene was discovered 100 years ago. and it improved our health significantly. You can see that in your own life when physical hygiene was taught to us. What would be my next sentence? We were taught physical hygiene 100 years ago. And we are seeing the results over here. See how we handle the COVID, everything. हाथ धो रहे, ये कर रहे, सब physical hygiene, physical hygiene. So, क्या कर रहे हैं? हम इमोशनल हाइजीन कब प्रैक्टिस करेंगे? कब ये करेंगे? Somebody, this young man, read your chance.
100 years ago, people began practicing personal hygiene and life expectancy rates rose by 50%. That was a few decades ago. Quality of life will rise dramatically by practicing emotional hygiene. Can you imagine what the world would be like
If we all
if
were
we all were
psychologically
psychologically healthy? If there were less loneliness, less depression, if people knew how to overcome failure, if they felt better about themselves, if they were happier and more fulfilled. I can, because that's the world I want to live in, and that's the world we all want to live in. So just become informed and change a few simple habits. That's the world we can all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for participating. It adds a little bit of significance to all our lives, and we become more aware of what our mind is doing to us. Thank you.